Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the podcast Who's at the Table. Today we are talking about black video game characters and their role in our lives. I am joined once again by Chris,
What's up?
Lee,
Greetings.
and RK.
Hello.
Okay, gentlemen, we did share amongst ourselves a list of some video game characters, but I see a lot of these are quite old. Anyone that jumps out towards you guys, and anyone want to pick one out?
Um, so let's kind of pull one out of obscurity here, right?
Hmm.
That something that someone we might not all like or love, but someone that kind of like jumps out. Like, let's talk about Shiva Olimar from Resident Evil 5.
Okay.
She's a secondary character, but she's a playable character. You play her if you're the second person of the BHSAA team, or if you decide you don't want to be Chris Redfield. Um, she's West African. A lot of the game takes takes place in Africa, and I remember in the game when it first released, almost all the zombies were black, and you're Chris Redfield shooting black zombies, and people were. They ended up doing a hot patch a week in because the NAACP came down on them, saying you realize that you just made all the zombies in this game black, and you're a white protagonist.
Yeah. Just for context wise, this game was initially released in 2009, but of course, there is no statute of limitations on racism. It's wrong every time, all the time.
True.
And then,
Very true.
I think we mentioned that like Shiva has an unlockable costume, and it's her tribal armor where she's in like a bikini
Yeah.
leopard skin with like
I
teeth
mean,
and stuff hanging off of around her neck.
several issues with that. The leopard print alone, it's not. I mean, fair enough. It's one of the most prominent animals featured in Africa. But when you strap it on a bikini, you sexualize a character, and it kind of loses its value as African symbolism.
Or
And then you
strength,
just
right?
exactly. There's nothing there that for me that says, "Hey, this is an African warrior."
Instead, it's an African woman in a bikini.
Yeah, that's all that is. With some
Yeah,
gold paint, glittery gold paint.
yeah. It's look at me, my titties bounce in this really racist outfit.
But yeah, would have been better if it had been the Swedish bikini team? I mean, the
No.
sexualization of women and marginalization of women in video games
Oh,
is a whole nother, is a topic
that is.
that
That's a
intersects
whole
with
nother one
racism.
there.
Yeah.
But I feel as men, maybe we should stay away from that one. We
Yeah,
don't
well,
have
until we
the
have a female
expert.
gamer on to talk about it. Yeah, agreed. But I'm
That
just
that
saying
would
that.
be great.
But
We
there,
should
there's
get
a
on that.
there's a certain intersectionality that
Mhm.
lies in that you know in that area, in that place
I
between.
have a question. Do we, so as we know, right?
Yeah.
Especially now with the way the world is and the way everything's coming and the way that information is, you know, coming out, especially about things that were done like in the past.
Hmm.
If games like Resident Evil, right? Because they weren't the only game that did this. There were many games back then that did it because back then it was like globally seen to a certain extent to be okay, you know? And so when we look at it now, like, do we do we go back and still attack them for what they did back
It was
then,
racist then.
or do
It's
we
racist now.
appreciate? No. I agree with that. I'm not saying that like it's not racist and whatnot. What I'm saying is that do we still attack them for what they did back then, or do we appreciate for the fact that they are changing now? I'm not saying that Resident Evil is changing. I haven't played a
I
Resident
don't.
Evil
I don't
game
think there's any.
lately,
I
but
don't
I'm
think.
saying for like new games, for new
Yeah.
games that have made mistakes back in the past
I
that
don't
are
think that
changing
there's
now.
any reason to attack them in the past because you can't undo that. You can't unring that bell. You can praise them for waking up to what's going on and and and
Yeah.
and, and,
Yeah.
and making that correction, because you got to remember their consumer base wasn't young African men and women. It was white guys. It was teenage white guys. So whatever the teenage white guys
Yeah.
wanted, that's what they got. But now they realize that they were leaving money on the table, and so now they're appealing to a broader fan base, and teenage white guys feel butt hurt because of it. You know,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know they.
because I'm looking at it in terms of like obviously I'm a huge WWE fan, and when you look at the WWE back then was terrible to women. It was like
Sure.
absolutely horrendous when it came to women and how they treated women in the industry.
Hmm.
But when you look at the WWE now, they have absolutely overhauled in terms of how they run their women division. The women division is not even named Divas anymore. It's
Okay.
it's called like the women division. They don't have those panty bra matches anymore. That whole thing is cancelled. Women are in the same kind of matches that men are, like Hell in the Cell and all those kind of matches. They even had an entire pay-per-view that was dedicated to women. It was an only women pay-per-view.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when you look at companies doing something like that, even though
Yeah.
they had like the terrible past they did back then,
Hmm.
you
Are
know,
women still getting
do
paid the
we?
same amount of money, or is this lipstick
I
on a
was
pig?
just about to say, let's try and stay on topic because, as much as we are allies, we're having a conversation without even including women in the conversation,
Agreed.
which seems a
No, no, no.
little
I'm not.
totally.
No, no, no. My thing is not in terms of like I'm just making an example of something I know, of something
Okay,
I watch, and something that I know a lot about.
Right.
But I'm
I will
saying
say,
on that, topic in terms of race, in terms of video
yeah,
games, and these big companies that have made those mistakes, like Lee said, for example, in terms of, do we think that they're only changing because they're global, or do we think they're changing because they knew they were wrong?
I think it's important when we talk about the past to be reflective and not responsive. So you look back at what we did,
Hmm.
the mistakes, the mishaps and such, and it's important to hold those people accountable and say, hey, remember you did this, so we're gonna learn and we're gonna not do this again, right? It's important and especially as a consumer, because you have the buying power. It's in your pocket. You're the one who makes them their money. So when you and I we sit and we say, hey, you as a gaming company, you made this back then, but I want to support you because I like your game. Just as long as you're not making this or anything related to this, because this is wrong.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can agree with that. So, on a different note, let's bring up the most badass get black character that has been generationally in a lot of games. Sergeant Major Avery Jr. Johnson, Sergeant Johnson from Halo.
Mm.
The Halo series.
Halo series,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He was a very, very strong black protagonist that helped Master Chief through a lot of his problems. Not only was he part of the Spartan 1 project, we don't really know a lot about that. Master Chief's the Spartan 2. Sergeant Johnson was the first and only human to ever be able to fight against the infection of the flood, and he sacrificed himself to um, save Master Chief on Installation 4. So in that game, that is a black man that is put to light and in not a negative connotation. And I think Bungie did a good job on representing him with strength and then not in a racist stereotype, because a lot of video game characters are boxers, fighters, basketball players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no negative. He's not victimized in the game. He's there when you need him to be there, and he helps you along your way.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad that there is certainly representation like that. You know, you have someone, and what Sergeant? He was what, high ranking, right? I
Yeah,
don't know. I'm
yep.
not too familiar with military
He
ranking.
was a master sergeant in the
Oh,
UNSC, sergeant major. Sorry, so that's even higher.
oh, wow.
So yeah, he ended up in, I think, the second game getting decorated along with Master Chief for the destruction of the Halo installation in the original game.
Here we have a
No,
Halo.
that's actually, it actually reminds me of like when you look at a game now, like Apex, for example. You have black characters like Bangalore and like Lifeline, who are obviously these strong, you know, black characters that they have their own backgrounds, and it's not like they're thrown to the sides. They're very powerful characters that a lot of people play. And even in the casting of those characters, they didn't just get just anyone. You know, like if you look at Bangalore's voice actor, she literally looks exactly like Bangalore, like exactly like Bangalore. And even Lifeline's character, because like Lifeline is very, she's multi-racial, and you know she has many different backgrounds and stuff. And her character as well, her voice actor as well, she's the same. So I think that was a great job by Apex and by Respawn and EA to, you know, go that extra length of trying to find voice actors that can portray those characters properly and accurately.
So my question is, what comes first? Do they design the character and then find the voice actor, or do they do the voice? They find the voice actor and then design the character to look like the voice actor? Because I'm looking at a lot of EA's games, their characters look a lot like their voice actors, and it's way too many to be accidental, right? So
Yeah.
they must
I
be
think it depends.
putting in the
I,
mesh for the skins after they hire the actor.
I think
Mm.
it depends on the. I think it depends on like
The title.
obviously how things, you know, progress, because like when you look at, because I know Apex pretty well. When you look at the grand scheme of Apex, not all of Apex's characters and voice actors are the same. Like for most of them, yes, but for some of them, it's not even close. Like when you look at Loba, right? Loba is um I would say she's like, you know, mixed race, even probably Latino, right?
Mm-hmm.
But her voice actress is white.
Mm.
So I think it sometimes depends on, you know, maybe they obviously do castings, and then if they really do find a voice that's like amazing, then maybe they create a character for that voice with that actress or actor in mind. Or sometimes they just, you know, have a character idea, then they find somebody who can play for that character. So I think it's just one of those things.
And
I think
So
maybe EA sometimes try to go the extra mile, but I guess it depends on the company at that point.
So EA also does another good job in general with like so BioWare, right? They casted in Mass Effect 2, I believe. They had a character in there that was a black character, and he was also part of your team. Let me see. His name was Jacob Taylor. In Mass Effect 2, he meets Jacob Taylor right off the gate, and Jacob joins your team. And but Jacob, the good thing I like about Jacob in that game is another character that had feelings, emotions, and he wasn't just like some badass brawler. And he was a soldier. He was a soldier class, and I liked how in that game you weren't cast. The character Jacob wasn't cast as like some asshole. He didn't have that asshole role. He was one of those like supporting friend roles. He also became a love interest if you chose that path on him. But there's too many times in games, which we can only count on literally both hands, where our characters that are portrayed as supporting roles, because there's not really a protagonist in a lot of games. There's not really a black protagonist. There's very few. Um,
Yeah.
and there's very few times where the black character isn't sacrificed, demonized, victimized. In his backstory, you know, he grew up in a ghetto and went to war, and now he's he's struggling, kind of deal. You don't have him as witch doctors or witches. There, there's very few characters that are stereotypical in our realm. I actually reached out to Cyberpunk. I said in our last episode, Project CD Red, and I said, "Hey, do you guys have any? Do you guys have uh any like examples of black character creation in this game? Because I don't see anything in the ads. And also, do you just have more than the three hairstyles, bald, cornrows, or like a fade
Yeah.
that or an afro that we're gonna get?" And the reply I got back was, if you want to see our media relations team, please go to this page. And then I went to that page. I had to sign up, and I had to prove I was part of some media outlet. And I'm like, so as a regular person with the concern of the game, I can't say shit.
Can't voice it. Well, you voice it on social media because there was a guy on Reddit who went after the guy who created it, Seth Poole, I think his name was. Poole something. The guy's last name is Poole. But he's a black guy, and he created the original Cyberpunk 2020. And he's not. He's wrote the stories and the characters. I don't know how involved he is in the look of the video game, but he, people were going after him for the representation of characters, and he was like, "Look, I wrote, black people in the future, and this gang that you say doesn't represent black people are immigrants from Haiti." And they speak with Haitian accents because they're from Haiti, and they're into voodoo, which is whatever, however they spell it, the religion that they practice. So he said, I'm trying to be as authentic as I can for what I know, and for you, a white guy, to call me out for not being black enough is kind of laughable. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty, because they didn't know that he was black, and he's the one that created the game. And they were
the original game,
yeah, the original game, yeah, not the video game, but what the video game is based on. And I'm like, to tell somebody, which is the same experience I just had recently, where a guy told me that, I'm disrespecting my grandfather's unit because, I didn't make it a real historical game. I'm like, well, look, motherfucker, I'm making the game I want. If you want a real historical game, make your game. But this is the game I made. To tell me as a black person that I'm making the game wrong and disrespecting black people is just white privilege at its zenith. That I can't make the game that I want to make because it's disrespectful to black people, and you're telling that to a black person. Now, whether he knows I'm black or not, I don't know. Or it could just be somebody trolling, but it's just, that attitude of people who feel that, if you're not doing exactly what they want you to do, then you're doing it wrong, which is, I'm sure there's a word for it. I just can't think of it right now.
We'll find it. That actually makes me think of a question I've been wondering about. So, video game writers, right, guys who come up with the general narrative of most video games, and let's say I'm thinking specifically of a Telltale game, the Walking Dead series. Now, what I loved about that game series was that it, much like the Walking Dead TV show or the comics, it focused more on the people problem and the zombie backdrop. You know what I mean? Like the world, yes, it was a zombie apocalypse, but you had people issues. Now, my thing with the first season, I believe it was written by like 3 white guys. And they have you play this protagonist, Lee, a black guy. 30, I think he's 30, 40 something year old black guy. He's from the South, I think. And yeah, somewhere south. And his backstory is, what you'd expect from a black guy. He's been to jail. He killed someone, or he robbed someone, or he did something like that. And it's just, when you even hear the dialogue of this character, you kind of get the sense that it wasn't written by someone of this ethnicity, of that race. And I suppose that's my question to you guys is, what do we allow? What are we willing to allow from game creators? Obviously, we don't have that many representation in the creative sides in terms of people of color.
Right.
So with the current people that are there, the powers that be, what are we willing to allow in terms of representation?
So for me, I have no problem with other races telling our stories. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is research. Have you done your research? And when I say have you done your research, I don't mean just watching Boys in the Hood and being on some, all right, I'm good. No, that's like, and I feel like that's what most of these companies do. They'd like, be like, no, I have a good understanding of black people. I have like one black friend.
I have a black friend.
Right? and I feel like for them, I feel like for them, that's enough. And no, like you need to, if you're going to write a story about somebody, like you said, the lead character that was, in prison and whatnot and everything like that, don't go speak to prisoners. Go speak to black prisoners. Go speak to people that have come out. Go speak to family members and whatnot, and
I
get
mean,
their
that
understanding.
backstory
Like,
alone wasn't even necessary, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah, but like I'm saying, like, do your full research and find out exactly what's
If
going
that's
on.
integral to
And
the
then
story,
even
right?
if you do exactly,
To the story that he was a black prisoner, right? If not, then why make him that? you
no,
know?
but it was no, but if I remember correctly, it was integral to the story because a lot of what kept happening was the fact that it was that drama of, oh no, he's a
Yeah,
prisoner, can
they
we
played
trust
on
him?
the mistrust of other people, other white people around him. Like, oh, he's a black guy and he went to jail. Oh, I can't trust
Exactly,
him. I
What
can't
game is
trust
exactly.
him.
this?
It's
The Telltale
the
games, The Walking Dead.
Telltale, yeah, Walking Dead
Okay, yeah,
Telltale
no, for the
series.
first one, yeah. But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
So if you're going to write a story like that, like, and you're not from that race and you've never had that experience, you can't. And I feel like this is what a lot of white companies do is that they're always like, oh no, this person went to prison. I just need to find out what prison life is like. No, you need to find out what prison life is like for a black man. You need to find out what life is like after he's been released for a black man, what he goes through for a black man, because it's completely different
Yeah.
to what
It's two very
other
different.
races go
Yeah,
through.
it's two very different experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that's my thing of like I have no problem with other races writing
but
for
do your
us.
homework.
Just exactly do your homework. Do your homework extensively, even if it means you have to bring someone to the studio, like a black man to the studio to like I remember something that happened where I used to work. I used to work at Blade, a production company, and we were working on this we were working on this like game show, right? And in the game show, it was a very black game show. All the people in the game show were black. So there was this one scene where they were like jumping up on these ropes, right? And while they were jumping up on these ropes, the commentator was black, and the commentator made a comment, and he said that, "Look at them all running around like monkeys,"
Yeah.
right? So then the sound designer working on the show, um, he put in monkey sounds,
Oh,
right?
ho, ho, ho.
So then
Insult to
he
injury.
then came, yeah. So then he then came up to me and he was like, "Hey, listen, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Do you think it's a good idea for me to add these monkey sounds?" And I was like, "No, that's fucked up." He's like, "Yeah, but the black commentator said they no,
No,
that's fucked up.
it's still not
Don't.
good. Don't do it.
It's still not okay. Take the monkey sounds out." And you see, that's what it is. It's about, and he thought, and like he genuinely thought he was in the right. He thought that nah, he said it, so it's fine. Nah, so and I'm like, bro, don't fucking do it. Don't you dare.
The
So
heat you're about to get from it is going to be intense.
well, and
I'm trying to save your career, sir.
if
Yeah.
those
Listen to
were
me.
if those were white people up on those ropes, they'd probably never describe them as
As monkeys,
monkeys.
correct.
Yeah, but his whole defense is the fact that the black commentator is the one that said monkey, so he thought that now it's okay to add monkey sounds, and I was like, no, 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 no,
That's
no,
not how any of
no,
this works.
exactly. So my thing is about doing your extensive research and asking other people of color on these decisions that you're making for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the big things about it, though, like you're talking about it, is you can't generalize all black people into the same sphere. You have affluent black people and black people that have different experiences growing up. So when you do your research before you develop a black video game character or a black character at all, you need to go to those areas. If you say this guy comes from Michigan and you're a
Yeah,
fucking Texas developer, and now I got some black guy who's speaking with a Texas accent or a very southern accent from Michigan, then you have no generalization of the area, anything like that. It makes it really hard. You dissociate with those characters. I think that's why they tend to pick characters that look like the voice actors, because then there's some association with the voice actor and it can bring them to more
And some
believable
authenticity.
stance.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
authenticity.
yeah, yeah. That brings me to a question that I had is, so when we look at Al mentioned the Miles Morales Spider-Man game. Now, the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, right, is basically a DLC. Like they It's literally the same city, the same map. All they did was throw snow. So that's what it is. It's a DLC. And that game actually reminds me of Prototype 2. Prototype 1 was an incredible game. Loved the game. And then Prototype 2 released. And Prototype 2, the lead character was black
right?
now. Yeah. James Heller. And I played Prototype 2 as well. And when I played Prototype 2, I felt like this feels like a DLC. There's not much different happening here. It's the same map. It's the same kind of game. Now, my feelings on this is the fact that are we now okay with that? Are we now okay? Like, what is our ask? Is our ask, like, say now, people listen to this, game developers listen to this and everything like that. Are we okay with just being added, like just kind of like being thrown off, like, no, here's, we'll change this.
No, because then you're selling for tokenism.
We'll give you a little DLC content. Exactly. Like, are we
tokenism.
Okay with that? Or
what you want is
are we asking for more?
What you want them to do is to write a character that just happens to be black, right? Is making them black integral to the story, right? And I use the Black Panther as an example. Yes, it's important that he's black because he's the king of an African kingdom. So that's important to his character. But in these other games, are they doing it as a token, or are they doing it because they wrote a character and it's interesting that he's black because he's from Detroit and he has this automotive background, and that gives the character, you know what I'm saying? Because in this region, these qualities, are integral. But it's not important.
Yeah.
So
to his race,
I
right?
would like,
hold on. And if you could switch that character out with any other race, how would that change the character, right? Because the character just served the story. Not the other way around.
Yeah. So like you were saying, is you want to be able to make a character. Can they be black? Can they be Asian? Can they be whatever? Essentially, what you're listing off is all RPGs where you build your own character and they keep it so general that race isn't even an issue. You know what I mean? So those are the games that those are the only games we play where we see a black protagonist.
Yeah.
When I play Fallout 4 or Fallout 3, I'm a black dude. My wife, like in the newest Fallout, you can customize your wife and you. And you're like, even if she's not you're playing her, you know what I mean? She edits to you and your choices, so then your kid edits to the mix of you.
What game was that? What game was that where everybody was in Sims?
The Sims.
Yeah.
Yes. Sims, you're the only black family in the neighborhood.
That's hilarious.
I mean, but when you can create your characters, the only time you see blackness out there, unless it's like a 50 Cent game, 50 Cent Blood in the Sand.
I played that game. Hey, don't dig on that game, bro. I actually played that. I'm not gonna let you.
I'm just saying that unless it's a fighting game, a sports game, or a 50 Cent game, you're not seeing a black character as a protagonist that isn't racially.
That's actually interesting. I'm wondering, so what's that guy's name? The guy who voices Kratos.
Black dude. I know he's from Stargate. That's all I can tell you.
You guys know him. Come on.
No, I know him. I know he's from Stargate. I literally just told you.
But I'm saying, right? So, Christopher Judge. That's his name. Yes.
Judge.
So, Christopher Judge is a black man, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he voices a
Greek
god. Yeah.
Say what it is, bro. That man is white. Kratos is white.
Kratos is white. Well, here we go. Are Greeks white? Are Italians?
The voice.
That's how he's portrayed. That's how he's portrayed. He's portrayed as a white man in God of War. Like no one's blind to that.
He's even.
I was just saying, like the voice it fits so well, right? Like you wouldn't even think, oh, it's a black dude.
Yeah, but I think you see that was just because they wanted a powerful voice. The same way you look at like Mufasa and
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. Darth Vader is white, but because of how incredible, exactly. But because of how incredible the voice is, they just had to. Yeah. Like you just had to. So I don't think they it's not about race. There it's just about we're just trying to find a voice, like
The
the
guy
perfect
who
voice.
the guy who voices Shax in Destiny and Destiny 2 is a black guy.
Guy
The
who
guy
voices what?
Shax, the Titan commander, Shax.
I'm not gonna lie to you, dog. I don't know this. Man,
Sorry,
I
like
just
I
wonder.
play the game, but
sorry.
I don't know it
He's
that
not
well.
he's not a Titan. That's why.
I can't help you there,
No, I was
bro.
asking because I find that games like that are very interesting, right? Like your God of Wars, especially the new recent one because
And
they ventured into Norse
isn't he
mythology.
gray? Isn't he gray with like a red tattoo? He's not
Yeah,
even.
he's got like ashy skin or something
He's
because of
white.
the death or something. I can't even remember the
Well,
backstory. But I'm wondering like when are we gonna venture into the spaces like of ancient African gods or some shit like that?
when
When do
we
we?
create the game, ownership has its
That
privileges.
actually brings me. That actually brings me to an incredible thing. When I was still at AVDA, and AVDA is it's a film university here in South Africa. There was actually an idea uh, by there was actually an idea by one of the lecturers that said, wouldn't it be incredible to take the Game of Thrones idea? So like Game of Thrones made in its time with the mythical creatures and that mythical era magic and just that lore and all that incredibleness. Wouldn't it be great to take that, right? That same kind of aspect, but then throw an African feel to it with the tribes, like with Shaka Zulu and all those things. And I was like, I would watch the fuck out of that.
How many tribes
The
were the Zulus fighting during that time period? How many different tribes were there in South Africa? Because I know the Zulus are probably the most popular because of the movies. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
how
Zulu
many?
is the most popular because of Shaka Zulu.
Yeah, because of
Yeah,
Shaka Zulu. So, but
yeah.
how many tribes were there in that area that the Zulus? Because they had to fight against somebody.
Weren't
I
they?
mean,
If I'm
the
not
in
mistaken, it's 10, right? Because based on the languages, right?
Okay.
is it? I mean, are we referring to like
Yeah, Southern
Southern
African
Africa,
tribes.
or
Yeah, that would have had contact with the Zulus, because the Zulus would have been House Stark, and then you have to create all the other tribes that they
yeah,
interacted
yeah,
with.
all
Exactly,
the
but
other
that's
houses?
but that was the idea. The idea was that because like even in African culture, we have our own uh like especially back then we had our own gods that we believed in. We had our
Sure,
own
yeah.
traditions. We had our own So if you brought those to life, just like Game of Thrones did, the exact same way, fighting, for the land and everything like that, the same way, but with that African culture, with that African feel, and I was like, and you see, that's the kind of remakes that I'm for. That's the kind of stuff that like,
No, and then would it be so different that it would be unique and original?